Hello, how's it? Welcome to my first video vlog essay that I'll be putting out. My name is Pigeon in Japan, and let's get into it. The reality of working in Japan, as in ALT. The reality is that it really is not what it seems. From the perspective of someone who's living in Japan for about a year now, it definitely has its ups and downs. Some background first, just to get a little bit about myself out there. I am currently working in Japan on an instructor visa, doing the stereotypical foreign Japan teaching English kind of vibe. That's how I got here. And the only different thing is that I am not working through JET. I am actually going through a dispatch company. So that makes my salary a little bit less than actual jets. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about my life as an ALT or assistant language teacher. It's basically like a student teacher and in the States. And my role is to support the main English teacher and kind of get the vibes up. My monthly salary is not the best. It is roughly 240,000 yen a month, which is about that much in USD. And comparatively, it's about the same as a new college grad. So you take that as you will. But in the long run, the salary does not go up. So usually what you get in your contract for your ALT work is what you're going to get for as long as you do ALT. Unless you go to a private company, which I do believe will pay more, but the amount of responsibilities and things you have to do will inevitably go up. So take that as well. Okay, so with that brief intro about me, let's get into the realities of Japan and living here for a year. I'm gonna break it down into 3 different categories. First, lifestyle. Next is future plans. And third is my overall happiness, which I think is probably going to be the most important. Well, I'm back again. The first recording didn't quite go so well, so I'm back at it. So first, living and lifestyle. With my current salary and location, I am not by all means living paycheck to paycheck, but also not living lavishly as well. I live in the countryside, and this means while some of my expenses like electricity and groceries are on the cheaper side of things like gas or my house propane and transportation in like gasoline for my vehicle are generally more expensive. In the grand scheme of things, I heard that my situation is actually slightly better than those living in the city. After taking out my monthly expenses, with the money that I am left with, it leaves me with some room to have some fun. This can go to things like going on weekend drives to nearby places or even drinking with my friends. I am not that strapped for cash so that I'm not having enough fun. However, going on more grand adventures, like taking the Shinkansen or the bullet train, and going to nearby different prefectures, or even going on a small trip to Korea, which is close by, or even outside of the country, takes a lot of planning involved. Another factor to lifestyle is my work-life balance. From my experience, work is very standard, and once you really get into the rhythm of things, it's a lot easier to go in and day out and kind of have the same thing all week. So depending on how your school schedules your week, or maybe weeks in advance, you kind of start to figure out the rhythm of where you have time to kind of make things prepare for your next classes. And once you kind of do that multiple weeks, multiple months, you really start to get into the flow and get more efficient in your prep work. So it makes your day a lot easier. Once you get efficient enough though, you can actually start doing everything really quickly, and you don't really do work outside of work. One big emphasis that I've noticed is that in the ALT line of work, you obviously don't get paid for doing work outside of the school. So trying to fit everything to the workday at first was a little bit difficult, but once you start getting used to things and getting to communicate with the teachers, you never do work at home. Don't do work if you're not getting paid for it. My number one life rule. And taking that into account, my work-life balance is pretty easy. I always finish on time, always go home early, and I can't ask for anything more. So also being an ALT is nice because you have a, I would say, somewhat decent entry level salary. And this also comes with the benefit of having the school system vacations. This means that when the schools are off for summer or winter vacation, you are effectively off as well. Because when no students are there, it doesn't make sense for the ALT to be there either. But one caveat is that you have to really double check what dispatch company or what company you're really going to be working for, because it does vary on the systems. So for example, but luckily for the company I'm working at, I get paid even though I'm not at school. So my monthly salary does not go down during long vacations, so like winter or summer specifically. And this is really nice because I can expect the same salary all year long and not have to really save and worry about, the 1 month I'm going to be off for summer. I have to really kind of jam everything and go on a really big budget so that I don't die. So one thing I do know, I think, is that for jet people, you do have a small summer break. And for the days that you are not working at the school, you're working at the BOE because you are technically a civil servant. So you're doing prep work or whatever the local BOE needs of you. So that is also, you got to take that into account. And we'll get back on topic. It is nice to have these breaks because it is a long enough break where if you want to travel abroad, go back home, it gives you the opportunity to do that. And this is very rare in Japan, and it is definitely a bonus for this line of work, at least for the entry level work as well. Oh, this isn't enough of the future me. Let's go back to the past me and continue the video. Shootz. Number 2. The second reality of living in Japan as an ALT is that in regards to future work, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot. And what I mean by that is that becoming an ALT is not that hard. Realistically, most companies hire anybody that speaks English, has a degree, and has a brain cell. Like, really, it's work that anybody can truly get in. But breaking out of this company and breaking out of the industry is practically impossible without a proper plan. And what I mean by that is your ALT salary will not drastically raise no matter how long you work for a company. And I mean, it does if you get, let's say, promoted to a higher level, but even then your salary won't increase that much. But the amount of responsibilities will, so it's kind of like, why do it kind of vibe. But if you are wanting a better salary, that is one option. But if you're planning to be an LT, you won't really getting a significant salary raise, and you only have a few paths for when you want to finish a job. The popular choice one is to really just end it all and go back home, go back to your home country. Kind of just really think about your time here in Japan and your LT work as like a side quest in your grand life. Like, it's only here for a little bit. You come here, work, have fun, blow all your money, and go back home, which I think is kind of a cool thing. It's once in a lifetime experience to really come out here and work here. So once you're done, might as well just go back. And another choice that people do is to try to find a job at, let's say, an international company based in Japan. And usually this entails a lot of foreign work, so working with foreign companies. And a lot of the times the job will be a duolingual job, meaning that if possible, speaking English is your main role and speaking Japanese within Japan is another role. So usually these international companies will have a lot of English support, which is a plus for people that don't really speak Japanese and here after the LT work. But these things they really only exist in big cities, and what I mean like big cities is like Tokyo, Osaka, maybe Kyoto. But like, other than that, if you don't want to live in those areas, your chances and opportunities to find international job really dwindles and gets a lot lower. And the third, and I think really the most hardest option and the hardest route to take is finding a regular job at a regular Japanese company. And I'd say this is the hardest because you're really fighting other like Japanese nationals. Like you in the ALT industry, you're a foreigner speaking English, so it's not as bad. But when you're trying to get a regular job and you have to fight other Japanese people, most companies are really going to take the regular Japanese person because that's what they're used to. They don't want to take the chance or like take the possible regret of having a not 100% successful foreigner. So it's really hard in that aspect. And in order to have at least a slight chance for joining these companies, you really have to speak Japanese. Like, to be fair, like there's no getting around it. So I think that Japanese companies are going to be looking for things like the JLPT test, the Japanese language proficiency test. And if you realistically don't have the standard of N2 or N1 above, like they don't even look at your resume. Like you're just already off the table. Like you're not even there. So if you're gonna go with a third route, it takes a lot of prep work while you're still being an ALT and while you still have a lot of time. For example, studying Japanese, trying to learn the language, getting some connections within your city. And honestly, having a little bit of luck is what it really takes to get a job in Japan that's not in the ALT industry. And third, and lastly, my overall happiness in Japan and the reality of living here and what it's done to me. I really think that my happiness is above and beyond, and I couldn't be happier, truly. And I say this because I've always wanted to move to Japan since I was a kid. Living in Hawaii, having Japanese blood in me, learning the culture, being in the culture, really wanted me to get to know my roots more, and I felt like moving to Japan would have been the best option. And following that dream and trying to pursue it, in high school I did a lot of homestay programs, coming here for about 10 days or so, going and staying at a friend's house and commuting to school, going to the daily lives, things like that really kind of elevated my passion and I wanted to be here in Japan even more. So in college I met my beautiful girlfriend, and it just became another reason to really come out here. Long distance was really rough, but trying to become closer was just one way to become more happy. However, I would say living here for a year, I can say that I'm truly happy. However, I never thought that I really wanted to be a teacher growing up. It wasn't really in my elementary school list of things to do. It was always become an astronaut, a YouTuber, become a pro gamer, things like that. But I'd say being here and teaching is such a fulfilling job. It really surprised me how much I really liked it. Fulfilling and teaching and impacting the students really resonates with me. So I feel like if you take that into account and you're someone that also likes that, I think you'll truly be happy if you come here. Depending on where you live, though, can impact your overall happiness. And I say this because coming from a city, growing up, and moving currently to the countryside was such a big lifestyle change. It was really hard to get used to it at first, but once you get into it, go to local community events, meet local people, have some kind of net of networking in here and around you, truly helps you kind of literally like living here, which is I would never thought I would say because I'm surrounded by rice paddy fields and cows, but I couldn't ask for anything more. I'd say one good thing, though, at least for me and my personality, is that I'm slightly introverted. So even being in the countryside is not too bad because internet exists, driving exists, so it's not too bad if I want to just stay home lounge around all day. But if you are in more extroverted and outward personality, and you like hitting up bars on the weekends with izakayas, walking down the city lights, kind of vibe, that doesn't exist out here. And if you really want that, and you'd have to drive realistically kind of far to get there, and if you don't like driving, it's kind of hard. So take that into account and try to like the small things at first. But if that doesn't help, I'd say overall happiness is number one. So you can always quit, and I think that's also a good choice if it's hurting your mental. So take care. And last point about happiness is that finding the small things outside of work is one thing that really kind of boosted my mental here. Meaning going outside, going for a walk, literally looking at the rice paddies, watching it grow, looking at the seasons, finding the passions and hobbies. Doing the small things really helped just boost my everyday life. Going to work and teaching is one part of living here, but also finding your passions outside of work and finding your real reason why you want to live in Japan is, I think, the most rewarding thing. I think that living in Japan is not going to be worth it in reality unless you have a strong reason to be here. In the sense of having a strong passion, for example, photography, videography, hobbies, for example, things with cars, or even like culture, or even on the other side of things, having a romantic interest, having a significant other, is really big things that are rooting me down here. And I think others can relate that if you don't have these things, it's really hard to stay here. Even if the glamorous life on social media truly kind of like glamorizes living in Japan, it's not always that good. Japan is living 20 years behind in some aspects, so dealing with that, you really have to have some kind of passion and a strong will to live here. And that's it. Rambled on for quite a long time, but I hope this helps, and I hope it inspires you to come here at the very least. However, everything I did say was based on my personal experiences and situations, so please take it with a big fat grain of salt, and don't come back and complain saying that your situation was different from mine. I hope you have a good one. Stay fucking blessed, stay cherry, and see you next time, brothers. Shootz.